Fools, welcome back to another Formula Fools podcast. I'm your host, your guide through the twists and turns. My name's Dave. Dave the Brit, Disco Dave.
Yep, things along those lines.
Disc. And with me is Skin, as always. Skin actually dropped a bit of a bombshell on us yesterday during the We Got the Chocolates podcast recording. So obviously, you know, Formula Fools going well. We've probably got more fans than the Chocks, so we need to let the rest of the world know.
Okay, the rest of the world. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sure. I was just telling everyone, finally, I suppose, that my wife and I are expecting a baby, our first baby.
Go Skin.
Nice. Yeah, exciting times.
You can have one of these. Go Skin!
This is your celebration.
The Skin.
Oh, damn.
See what I did?
Yep.
Fades out on its own. I don't really need to fade it.
You're welcome to fade it earlier.
No, it's fine. It's fine. And not the first time it's going to be played today.
Great. Nice. Anyways, that was the big news.
Huge.
Exciting times.
Well done, Skin.
Thanks, man.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It was you caught us all off guard.
Yeah, that was the idea.
Yeah.
Because it was meant to be a big secret for the first 12 weeks or so, you know, and I thought I'd surprise everyone. So, yeah,
We certainly did that. Go to the We Got the Chocolates Instagram and have a look at the reel that we will have put out yesterday if you're listening to this on the day of release. If I release this on time. And you'll be able to see the boys' reactions. It was priceless, to say the least. Also, something that happened this weekend, Skin, was we ran the Gold Coast Marathon.
Yep.
You might see behind me if you're watching on YouTube. Again, I'm 5 episodes behind on YouTube, so maybe at Christmas you'll see this. There is the Gold Coast Marathon 42K finisher medal thing. We both finished it.
Yep.
So did Lee and Mikus. And
yeah, there's a few other medals of Mikus's behind you as well. But yeah, most recently.
They're all mine. I ran all of them.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a guru.
Yeah. So no, that was cool. That was a good weekend.
Yeah.
The guys wanted me to grill you a bit, actually, Dave, over your performance on the weekend, because we all said we were running together.
Yep.
Even Mikus, who has earned some medals behind you.
Yeah, he's done pretty good.
Yeah, and is better than us at running and could well have run the marathon faster than us. It said, no, we're going to stick together. We're going to have a good day. It's all going to be fun. We're going to hang out together. It's all going to be nice.
Yep.
He wasn't going to run off.
I remember us talking about this. Yeah.
Yep. Then you died in the arse around the 20K mark, Michael.
It was literally just before 20K, pulled up with a cramp in the calf.
Yeah.
Phoned my wife. I was like, I'm done. I was like, genuinely come and get me out. Like, I'm done.
Yeah. Like you told us you were pretty much pulling out of the race. It was all game over. Michael went back to offer you some support. We eventually ran on. Somehow you've pulled out the miracle on grass and caught back up with us and decided you weren't pulling out of the race. I don't understand what the hell happened there. Well, so credit to you there.
Let me explain what happened there. So pulled up at the 19K mark, cramp in the right calf. I'd already taken my anti-cramping stuff, which is the worst thing to eat or drink or whatever you do with it in the world. So then when I told you guys to run on, I was genuinely like, I'm pulling out. I'm like, I'm not doing this. Pulled over to one side, had a bit of a stretch, 2 more gels straight down the barrel. Saw that there was like a aid station up the road. So went to that, got some water, had a bit of a slow walk over there. And then I was just like, right, let's just try and get to 30K. Let's just see if I can do 30K and then I'll pull out. Started jogging and the cramp just disappeared. And then all of a sudden I caught the 4:45 pacer and then I went around a corner, saw your wife, Mikus's wife, and the girl that Lee is getting to know. And they were like, they're just around this corner. Keep going. So I was like, okay. Went around that corner, could see the 27s, caught you up.
Okay. So well done on that.
Thank you.
That was impressive. That was very cool. That blew my mind when you caught back up to us after pulling out of the race.
Yep.
You've then run with us for a little bit, which was very kind of you.
Well, I ran with you for almost another 10K. Like we got to like 30.
Sure.
4K?
Sure. Yeah. You spent some time with us. Yeah. And then you seemed to decide either you were sick of our company or you decided that you thought this was an F1 race or something and you just weren't going to run with us anymore and you just took off. And we just continued running at the pace we were running at and you weren't having a bar of it. And you just ditched us. And for no good reason.
Genuinely no good reason.
It wasn't like you were chasing a time and we were holding you back. You finished maybe 2 minutes ahead of us.
Well, I
at
finished
4:40.
exactly 2 minutes ahead of you. I finished probably a minute 55 ahead of the Mika, so maybe a minute 58 behind Lee or ahead of Lee.
I don't understand. Please,
Yeah.
you need to explain yourself.
I genuinely, the only thing I can remember from when I started to leave you was I was really struggling. The legs were like, I didn't train for this marathon at all. And when I say I didn't train, I mean, I literally didn't. I got shin splints 4 weeks before the marathon. So my physio told me to take 3 weeks off. So that meant I had 1 week to train. I ran 1 8K with you and I think another 7K with you and Lee. That was my entire training.
Nice.
Didn't do anything from 4 days up until. Had no diet. I wasn't drinking like water properly. The night before the race, 7 beers on the tools. So body was not ready for the race. So I was just like struggling through from like the 29 through to the 32K mark. So I was like headphones in, sometimes talking to you boys, like taking them out and whatever. And then at that point when I decided to leave you, I had the headphones in, music was blasting. I turn around, you boys were like 5 or 6 meters behind. And I thought, if I go at that pace, I'm going to cramp up and die. So I just kept going at the pace I was going, which just happened to be slightly faster than you boys, which just meant I kept pulling out a very small lead.
Right.
I tried to slow it down in the last 2. Like went to the bathroom, walked. I did like walk runs for 200 meters at a time. But I guess I just pulled out a massive gap. I don't know. I can't explain it. I don't know. I just knew that if I slowed down, I would have died and I would never have finished the marathon.
So running faster
Yep.
towards the end of a marathon was less painful.
Way less painful. Honestly. When we were going up that road, like away from all the crowds and everything, my legs were killing me. Like all the tops of my legs were really starting to hurt. My right knee was starting to go. Running faster made it better. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm suspicious, Dave.
Mate,
sure.
Literally, what else did I have to gain?
I don't know.
We all got
That's the mystery.
we all got the same medal. I'm jealous because there's no photos of us crossing the line. There's just photos of you three. I'm on my own, and the photos of me crossing the line, I look like I want to die. Like it was genuinely Painesville for disc.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's enough of that race. I suppose
That is
we
enough
should
of that
probably
race.
talk about some
Let's get onto the Formula
cars
Fools.
and things.
So sit back, buckle up. It's time for Formula Fools. So this week we've had quite a few messages since the Canadian Grand Prix. Obviously, Canadian Grand Prix was a wet race that turned dry. I think, I can't really remember. It was quite a while ago. Lots happened. You know, we ran 42 Ks at the weekend. So, you know,
True.
gurus. Yes, we had a fair few messages around that saying like, what's the difference? Why are we seeing different race results? Why are we seeing different people going on different strategies, taking different racing lines, all these different kind of questions. And again, this weekend, we just had the British Grand Prix. So perfect time to bring this subject back up and actually talk about it. So I just wanted to quickly run through a few things that can change from a wet versus dry race. If you've got any questions, Skin, just jump in.
Sure.
As and when. Have you got any initial questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
So firstly, it seems like there's a bit of hype around wet weather races. People seem to froth it. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Because like I'm probably having never watched a ton of motorsports and coming from like a more of probably like a cricketing background is my main sport. Like wet weather sort of ruins the day a bit. You know?
You can't play cricket, apparently, as we learned on New Year's.
Yes. Yeah, correct. So what is it about wet weather that makes people froth it for F1 races? Why is that an exciting thing and not like a bit of disappointment?
It neutralizes all the cars. So if you've got a Williams that is, you know, a second and a half a lap slower than a Red Bull, it will neutralize that a bit more. So we'll be maybe 0.4 a second per lap slower than them. Just because you can't go on power as quickly on the exit of a corner. You've got to brake earlier. You lose downforce because there's spraying things in your way. There's more chance of human error, things like this. So it kind of neutralizes the race and just makes it more exciting from a neutral's point of view. Like if you would love to see an Aston Martin on a podium, probably you're probably going to want a wet race because they're probably going to perform better than they would in a dry race.
Okay.
In a wet race.
All right.
That's if things go wrong for other people and blah, yada, 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 whatever. But saying that, we do have wet races where it is boring as fucking sin because everyone is just taking their time and like being real easy on the strategy and they're not no one's kind of taking a risk. No one's taking different lines. No one's trying different strategies. So the dream that you want is a wet, dry race, which is what we had this weekend at Silverstone.
Yeah.
So you want it to start wet or dry and then transition into the other one. So we have you'll have slicks and intermediate or wet tires during the race. That's like the dream.
Right. Okay.
Because you simply just don't know what's going to happen, when the rain's going to come.
Right. And what teams are going to do and when they're going to pit.
Exactly. Yeah. So, the first thing I listed was track conditions changing. Obviously in a dry one, you've got very stable conditions, usually like, unless it's a track like Spa, where it's like a really long track where it could be cloudy on one end of the track and the track temp could be a couple of degrees lower, and then really sunny on the other end and the track temp a couple of degrees higher. Even that is not that significant. The performance is going to be relatively similar all around. Spa, for example, again, in the wet, you could have it raining on one side of the track, dry on the other. We had that at Silverstone this weekend.
Yeah.
So track conditions are huge for it. And also just how well do the tracks clear water. Like Interlagos in Brazil is just Interlagos? No. Sao Paulo in Brazil. Is it called the Interlagos circuit? I can't fucking remember, but the Brazil track.
Sure.
Like synonymous for rainy weather. And they've got some of the best surfaces for actually draining the water, so you don't get stagnant water. So a wet race there is really interesting, so you still get like real high grip, but you can get high grip all over the circuit. Whereas like Turkey, which is a race I'll talk about in a bit, the track is very slippery, very greasy surface. So you'll have cars skidding off and flying off the track all the time, everywhere. And we saw a bit of that with the Mercedes in Silverstone this week. Yeah, track conditions.
Yeah. Okay. What is it about Silverstone that's like it's particularly hard on the tires or something? They kept saying that Silverstone like really degrades your tires.
Yeah, it's got a lot of high speed corners, like Maggots, Beckett's. That kind of section is very like you're not really braking, you're just kind of like easing off the throttle and like you're kind of like playing with the throttle to add speed mid corners and stuff. So it's a lot of like windy corners with a lot of fast speed changes.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of pushing the tire from side to side, really leaning on it. And so it just eats them up.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a lot of races at Silverstone. I think we spoke about the Lewis Hamilton finishing with 3 wheels, still intact last week. We've had a lot of races where tires will blow out in like a dry condition because the surface and the track is just very rough on the tires.
Mm-hmm.
And it's why it's one of the best tracks in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So then tire choice and performance, as we just spoken about, dry tires, you kind of know what's going to happen if it's dry. So it's a lot more predictable. Okay, these soft tires, and Pirelli will say, hey, these soft tires will go up to 24 laps. So don't run them past that kind of thing. And then you'll get kind of a performance window during a race to say, hey, a soft tire might be best between 12 and 18. So then, that's kind of your pit window is from probably the 16 through to 20. Because that's where the drop off is going to be.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
In wet races, a lot less tire choice and based on the performance of the tires. Because if it starts wet and you're on intermediate tire, or let's say if it starts wet and you're on full wet tires, and then it starts to dry and like the stagnant water doesn't stay there, then wet weather tires are going to really degrade really quick because it's softer. It's really soft rubber. It's just built to just get rid of water. You barely ever see wet tires during an actual race.
Yeah, okay.
So you then want to switch to intermediates. So you can't say, hey, these wets are going to last 20 laps. Because what if the water clears in 5? You then need to switch after 5.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I did not expect that and didn't really realise that until watching Silverstone this week. Yeah. Even they only went to intermediates. I don't think anyone went to a full wet tire.
No, it was never, yeah.
Yeah, but even then, like they would put on intermediate tires. And like it seems obvious why you wouldn't want a slick tire when it's raining because you're just not going to get enough grip and you're going to hydroplane. But I didn't. It wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't intuitive to me that it would go the other way as well. They put on intermediate tires and then they'd be like, no, it's too dry. It's too dry.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was the thing.
We have had races in the past where intermediate tires have faded away at the same pace as the rain on the track has faded away. So the track has started to dry at the same pace as the tire is degrading. And then you'll see them at the end of the race. They have just turned their intermediates into slick tires. And so then the performance then gets better. So it can be a two-way street. We've had some, and this is why it's like the unpredictability of a wet race and what wet tires are going to do is the best bit. Like I dream of a wet race. I'd hate to be at the track when it's wet, especially like Silverstone, because that would have been like freezing fucking cold. And then when the sun came out at the end, boiling hot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's England, so it's probably only 17 degrees, but still.
Yeah, boiling hot.
Yeah, for Brits.
I imagine you'd also like, so that's, yeah, from a fan's perspective, it's like really exciting. You'd love to see a wet race because it sort of adds that different element to the race. What do you think from like the teams and the drivers' perspective? I imagine they're stressing.
Strategists hate it.
Yeah.
Genuinely hate it because strategists love numbers. They love things that make sense and things that work. And so when you've got an unpredictable, like strategists will always tell you that the worst thing about an F1 race is putting a driver in a car because you don't know if that driver's going to be hot-headed, if he's going to make a mistake. Like that is an unpredictable force of a perfect strategy. Weather is another unpredictable force. So for strategists, it's they hate it so much. It's just not good. For drivers, I think it depends. If you're like, let's say a Logan Sargent, who is, you know, let's face it, not the top of the pack. He probably doesn't like it that much. It makes his job a lot harder. He's got to actually earn his wages to keep the car on track. But if you're a Lewis Hamilton or a Max Verstappen or I'd say Lando Norris, but they didn't really do anything. Like if you're one of them top drivers, you probably want a wet race, especially for the Mercedes at the moment. So yeah, if you're a Mercedes, you're not really going to care about these rainy conditions because it's actually going to play into their strategy and the way their car performs is going to perform better in these wet conditions. Whereas we know, because they're like easier on the tires and their engine performs better in cooler conditions and things. Whereas Red Bull, they want it to be warm, they want it to be hot. Their car performs way better when it is in them hotter conditions. So that's why they didn't dominate this weekend. We'll get onto all that later. Pit stop strategy, just like with the tires, because tires can go off quicker, because rain can come and go, as we saw at Silverstone, the pit stop strategy can be a lot more indecisive and a lot less clear. So teams really have to think on their feet for like, hey, there's rain coming in 4 minutes, but what if rain comes in 2 minutes because the radar is like slightly off? And then you've just got to be like quick enough to be able to box your cars and make sure it's the right move. Charles Leclerc, we'll get onto that one, didn't make the right move.
Oscar Piastri also didn't make the right move, although it's probably not the drivers making the moves. I take it. It seems like they're kind of getting stitched up. But that was another thing that sort of caught me off guard. I didn't realize you would have to consider, like you've got those changing pit stop strategies with the wet race, and something they had to consider was whether or not there was enough time in between drivers to double stack them in the pits. Yeah.
And this is where you'll see teams like Red Bull and Mercedes probably are your best two examples, that they have got such good strategic teams that have worked under pressure, fighting for championships for so long now that they know how to make their moves on the fly. Whereas teams like McLaren, Ferrari have always been synonymous for just deck chairing under pressure. And like you've got teams like that just aren't used to fighting at the front. And so making them decisions quickly and it being the right decision is genuinely a skill that they just need to learn.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, driving styles is another thing I wrote down. You will see quite a lot, and we definitely saw it at Silverstone. We definitely saw it in Canada. Alex Albon's overtaking Canada into that last chicane, the double overtake thing. Like, you'll see drivers taking different lines. Like they'll go offline, they'll go around the outside of other cars when it's wet. Because if you've got an inter tire on and the racing line is drier than offline, then you can actually find more grip going offline and cooling your tires and just getting that, like using them for what they're there for kind of thing. So a driving style comes into play hugely. And this is where like Ayrton Senna got his reputation for driving in the wet. Like the lap of the gods he was going offline and doing shit that no one else was doing on that track in Donington that day. And that was because he just had the confidence in his ability to be able to, if the car was sliding off track, he knew that he could just correct it and still make the move and still be faster than everyone else. So yeah, driving style, huge. Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, both phenomenal drivers in the wet. So, probably why we saw a Lewis victory this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing I wrote down was visibility and safety. Like, obviously, if it's dry, you can see everything that's in front of you. If it's wet, the car's going to kick up spray. If you've ever been on a motorway or a highway and you've been driving behind a truck, it's kicking up a lot of spray. Your wiper blade's going like crazy. Like, you know how shit that is. Now put yourself basically on the floor. You've got 20 other cars in front of you potentially if you're in a Williams, and you can't see a fucking thing. And we don't have brake lights on the car. We've got the flashing wet weather lights, but yeah, you've got to consider that. So yeah, genuinely can cause you to just lock a brake and then spin, or just miss a braking zone and go into the back of someone. Like it's dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. Is it like do you see a lot of races in those conditions, or is that lack of visibility so dangerous that they just tend to sort of drop safety cars or red flags or things like that?
So like we spoke about the Belgium Grand Prix in 1998 last week, where there was that big crash where like fucking 15 cars hit each other. Things like that made us revisit how we look at wet races. So if it's like really, really fucking wet, we can delay starts. We can send cars out behind the safety car, so the race will start, but they'll follow a safety car. It could be like mandatory full wet tires to try and clear water off the track. We'll do a lot of things like that to try and kind of limit fast running in dangerous conditions. We have had races where the races have had to be suspended and they've given half points to people because it's just too dangerous. Like there was a few in 2009 when Jensen won his championship in the Brawn. More notably, I think it was 2019, I want to say, maybe 2020. I feel like 2019. In Belgium, in Spa, they did 3 laps behind the safety car and then postponed the race. And it was a piss take. Like they shouldn't have gone out behind the safety car because they knew they were going to postpone the race. They just did it so they didn't have to refund people's tickets. But officially that race was then fine because they completed 3 laps.
No way.
And it's a piss take.
Sneaky bastard.
Yeah. But Williams podium, so I don't care. George Russell was driving for us that day. Okay. But yeah, only half points were given for that one because we didn't complete full race distance. I think you've got to complete, I think something like 70 or 75% of the Grand Prix to be able to give full points.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, there was not as many points being given out that day.
Okay. Couple questions. Was that Williams' last podium?
Probably.
Nice.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Right. Okay. And then, wasn't that, or sort of, I think around that time where there's sort of criticisms from, I'm pretty sure from George Russell was talking about how those full wet tires are essentially useless.
Yeah. 100%.
Because you, like, if it's really wet, you go out on the full wet tires, you sit behind a safety car, do nothing. And then it dries out and you put on other tires and do you agree with that take?
100%.
Is that, okay.
Yeah.
And that's still the case?
So, yeah, absolutely. But I don't think that the wet weather tires are pointless. Well, no. They're absolutely pointless, but it's because they're only used to clear the track. Right. So I just think, why are we sending 20 fucking, very expensive cars with very experienced drivers around to clear a track? Like, why can't we just get sweepers in or something to clear the water?
Right.
Like, why? There needs to just be something else. And then have an actual race start, because it just doesn't work. And we just don't see wet weather tires actually being used in a race anymore. It's just pointless.
Right. And is that because of the visibility sort of thing? Like if something could be done about visibility in wet weather races, would they be more inclined to let the race go in wet enough conditions to justify full wet tires?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Probably, which is probably why they're trialing like the wheel covers. Have you seen them on the wet weather tires?
Nope.
The Ferrari tested them a few weeks back or a couple of months back now. And it's just literally like an entire like carbon fiber shell around the top of the tires for when it's wet, so that the spray would get kicked up into that and then just fall down instead of getting kicked up into the air. They wrote it off. It was a bad idea. And they've said the conclusion was it would still do nothing because the rear diffuser would actually, the airflow over the car would suck water up and then the rear diffuser would kick it upwards. So it was inconclusive that the tires were kicking up the spray. It's more the diffuser and the rest of the aerodynamic parts on the car that are actually doing that. So I don't think we'll ever get rid of that, which means I don't think there's any point of still manufacturing and taking hundreds of wet weather tires to every single race. Yeah, okay. I think it's pointless.
Okay.
I also did note down a few I noted down a few little notable things. Go Deers. I jotted down a few notable races where wet weather had played a huge part in the outcome of the race. I've not got any clips for you this week, but the 2008 Brazilian Grand Prix, Lewis winning his first World Championship against Felipe Massa. yeah, it was, a very dramatic race, and rain definitely played a part in a lot of people's performances. But Lewis needed to get 5th place, and on the I think it was like 3 corners to the end, 2 corners to the end, he passes Timo Glock to get 5th place because Timo was just struggling, to keep grip and temperature in his tires and things like that. So weather definitely played a part there. The 2011 Canadian Grand Prix, Jenson Button at one point in the race was in dead last. He pitted 4 or 5 times, won the race. On the last lap, he overtook Sebastian Vettel to win the race.
Yeah.
Wet weather. We had a couple of red flags, and I think we had 2 red flags and like 3 safety cars or something.
Right.
It was an unfucking believable race. And even like re-watching that race or the highlights of it in preparation for this, genuinely, you would never, if I didn't tell you that, you would never have put money on Jenson. Even like 5 laps go towards the end, you would still not put money on Jenson winning the race.
Really?
It's unbelievable. Like one of the best races ever.
Okay.
And it was a McLaren as well. So there you go, Skin.
Come on.
Obviously.
Great people.
Yeah. And then...
Not this week.
Yeah, not this week. Well, you get onto that in 2 minutes. 2020 Turkish Grand Prix was also a very notable one for this. I had completely forgotten about this, and watching the highlights, mate, you have got to go and see it after we've recorded because it is amazing. Hamilton won the race, but even Hamilton went off track like 4 times or something. It was everyone was skidding around. It was COVID, so like we don't usually race at Turkey. Turkey kind of got given a race because we needed to just make up races from like, we lost a lot of Asian races because obviously COVID. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we needed more tracks, and Turkey was one of them ones that kind of stepped up. Not ready for rain. It was greasy as hell. Like the start of the race, everyone is basically rolling off the start. They're going so slow. It's unbelievable. Like Max Verstappen, like his car kind of like skids and loses like 4 places off the start line. It's unbelievable. It's such a good race.
Okay.
Checo came like 2nd in that race as well. This was back when Checo was good. Didn't race for Red Bull though.
Checo came 2nd in a race this year.
Yeah, but we'll get on to Checo. But yeah, like genuinely, I forgot how good this was, and reliving it, especially like the last 10 laps, it was just like, oh, that was a belter. Like one of the greats.
All right.
So go check it out.
I will.
I was also talking to the fan Skin.
Okay, I'm sure some of them will too.
Okay, we're going to move on to the British Grand Prix race review. Did you enjoy it, Skin?
I did.
Good.
Didn't watch it live, but enjoyed watching it back.
Neither did I. Fucking hell. After that marathon, I was dead to the world.
Yeah.
Genuinely no chance I was staying up till midnight to watch that one. Ryan did watch it live, and Ryan has got a hot lap recap.
Hello, chaps. How are you? Now, how are the legs? First of all, have you recovered? I did hear a little bird told me, and by a little bird, I mean a big fat bloater called Dave, told me that you did the Gold Coast Marathon this weekend. Are you absolutely stark raving bonkers? Yes, I think you are, is the answer. That's ridiculous. But well done on finishing. That's to Skin, by the way, because last I heard, Dave was still stood at the Portaloo somewhere along the 22-kilometre mark. Don't know. I'm joking, Dave. I know you're a legend. You did well. And by your sort of the way that you refer to Williams all the time, I heard you dominated that marathon. That's right, yeah. So, okay, anyway, let's get on with it, shall we? Here is the hot lap recap for Silverstone. Oh, welcome back, one and all, to Formula One. This is what it's all about, isn't it? And what a thrilling edition we had this time. Hearts pounding all the way from that British Grand Prix. And let me tell you, this race had it all, didn't it? It had drama, it had excitement, a fairy tale ending that had everyone on the edge of the seats. It had wet, dry, wet, dry, wet, dry, like David's panties when he's watching Williams finally score points again. Okay. Picture this, a wet, dry race, yeah, 3 British drivers battling it out at the front, and a crowd of 164,000 people there today. There were just under 500,000 people there this weekend. I mean, that is British support at its absolute finest. It really doesn't get much better than that, does it? Now, the star of our show, though, none other, Dave, put your fingers in your ears, Lewis Hamilton. I mean, who would have thought at the start of the season, we'd be now seeing this Mercedes resurgence. Those upgrades really have made the difference. And he fought tooth and nail with Verstappen and with Norris to claim his first victory since December 2001. I mean, that's the 7-time world champion back on top in style at his home race, becoming the record holder as well for the most wins at a single circuit with 9 wins. So, I mean, he really does know this circuit like the back of his hand, doesn't he? But it wasn't an easy race. It had so many elements to it. Verstappen struggled for pace early on, found himself falling down the pack, came alive, didn't he, in those final minutes? I mean, he put in really immense pressure onto Hamilton. And then there was Norris as well, who was in the mix at one point, grabbing the lead, and then has ended up in third place on the podium. But, it did give the fans, especially the British fans, loads to cheer about as well. It was a classic race, wasn't it? Top drivers, top teams putting on this superb show, despite the constant change in the weather. I mean, that really brought the race alive, didn't it? 1 minute it's dry, 1 minute it's wet. And in fact, the part where half of the track is dry and half of the track is wet, really causing a lot of headaches for the teams. And Mercedes looked completely out of it at the start, didn't they? Norris and Piastri, especially when the rain first started to come, my goodness, their cars came alive, especially with their high downforce setup that they've got. But that turning point came with the pit stops. And I have to say, Verstappen and Red Bull showed their class here, because McLaren didn't get it right. They had a couple of opportunities, didn't they? And they didn't make the right call. They didn't make the right call for Norris. They didn't make the right call for Piastri, who ended up slipping down to 6th after that first change of tyres. And then when Norris went back on to the softs for the final part, I think that was the wrong tyre choice as well for him to be able to keep Verstappen behind him, and he didn't manage it. But in the end, it all came down to those final laps. Verstappen was closing in on Hamilton on his hard tyres, but the Brit held on. He crossed the line with just 1.4 seconds ahead of his rival. And he was so emotional, wasn't he, by the end as well? It was a real emotional victory for him, meant a lot. I think he felt like he was starting to slip out of being current, and being one of the names in Formula One. So to be able to drive a pretty good race, really, and get himself back up there on the top must have meant the world to him. So, behind the top 3, impressive performances throughout the field, actually. Carlos Sainz took 5th for Ferrari, although that Constructors' Championship is really closing in now. I think McLaren are, let me take a quick look here, McLaren are 7 points behind them. That's it now. Ferrari sat on 302 points and McLaren are on 295. Red Bull still racing away with 373. And Verstappen at the top, 255 points now to Norris's 171. So we've definitely got the McLaren driver sitting pretty in that second place with the points. Nico Hülkenberg as well, I mentioned to him, he was really good in that upgraded Haas car, finishing 6th. Lance Stroll as well with a very good race, and Fernando Alonso as well, 7th and 8th, and Alex Albon, yes, for Williams, got some points ahead of Yuki Tsunoda. So there you have it. What a race. And it'll go down, honestly, it'll go down in Silverstone history for being one of the greats of this new generation. Hamilton's fairy tale comeback, part of it. Norris's podium on home soil, but him still there wishing that it could have been something a little bit more. And just a thrilling battle between the sport's top drivers. It really doesn't get much better than what we've witnessed this weekend. And it's down to Hungary next. Hungary is the next circuit. Are we going to have a breather in between this now? These 3 races have had me on the edge of my seat. Absolutely. It's been brilliant. So, guys, I've rambled on for far too long now. Until next time, keep your engines revved. Keep your passion for racing alive. Keep the queue relatively short at the Portaloos because David is absolutely busting. And I'll see you next time on the Hot Lap Recap.
Go Ryan. That was
Nice.
in depth.
That was very thorough.
Yeah, you could tell he's British and he was excited that it was the British Grand
Yeah, I
Prix.
see.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I do remember when the fastest lap of the race was around the 7-minute mark. That was
Yeah. Good. Skiing.
See?
Go skiing.
nice.
Good. I like that. Ryan, be faster.
No, that's good.
Just something I wanted to throw out there before we get into the actual race. Did you see the Pierre Gasly penalty that he got in qualifying?
No.
So after qualifying or before qualifying, I can't remember, Pierre Gasly and the team announced that they were doing some engine changes to his car. So they were changing the ICE, the internal combustion engine, the turbocharger, the MGU-H, the MGU-K, and his control electronics. All of them have position penalties for the qualifying, meaning he will lose positions for each one. Meaning Pierre Gasly had a 50 place grid drop.
What?
Yep. How fucked is that?
I don't understand.
Neither do I. So there was a meme that came out where it was like the starting grid, last place, Pierre Gasly, and it was like 5 corners around the track. Unbelievable.
bizarre.
How does that even happen?
Why would they do that?
It's just the regulation. It's just one. We used to have this years ago. Like people would just take one engine penalty that'd be like or they'd take 2 engine penalties. It'd be a 20 place grid drop. And then they'd go, oh, we may as well just take fucking more. And then it's like a 50 place grid drop. And it's like, we need to stop this. We've not seen this in years.
But
and
what
now it's all of a
actually
sudden
happens if there's a 50-place grid drop? Where does he actually start the race?
last. Like it doesn't, it should follow on.
It doesn't follow on.
Nah.
So
that's
he'll
it.
just be normal.
He also
in the
qualified
next-
last. So like it meant nothing. Like he just didn't go out in qualifying.
And
Like,
he
went
can just
out and
start
set,
the
like,
next
one lap.
race
Yep.
wherever he
Scot-free.
qualifies.
Yep.
No.
It's such a bullshit rule. Yeah, I know.
Well, I'll be damned.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's F1 for you, baby. See if I just said baby on the podcast.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, sorry about that one, Skim.
Good stuff.
Anyway, we're going to change it up a little bit this week, see how it goes. And we're going to look at from whoever finished first, we're going to look at each team and go down the order. So we're starting things off with Mercedes. My notes for them, it was a race of 2 halves for Mercedes. Victory for Lewis was probably one of his best. Like I know, obviously he's had a very great career and everything, but he does not have the fastest car. And I think he had to actually fucking work for that victory today. He had to use his skill as well as like the team's strategic skill to be able to be in the right place at the right time to win that race.
Mm.
And I think they pulled off a masterclass. And you don't hear me say this ever about Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
So yeah, he genuinely was amazing. And then unfortunately for George on the other side, just the smallest of reliability issues.
Mm.
I think it was a water pump issue or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Do you know any more about what happened there? Because that was he seemed to be going quite well as well.
Yeah.
Like it was all,
Yeah.
it was all fine and dandy over
It
at
must have been a
Mercedes. And then it
cooling
was,
thing. Like it must have been, because like we're getting into the season now, so they wouldn't want, if you've got like a cooling issue with the car, like the water pump's broken, it's not pushing coolant throughout the car. That could put a lot of strain on your engine, which could then blow an engine. And everyone's real close to this, to the top end of their engine limits. That's why we saw the penalties for Gasly, because they wanted to just add a new engine and all these parts to their list. So yeah, I genuinely think it was just preserve the engine, think about the overall season, which must have really fucking hurt your home Grand Prix.
yeah, for sure.
I think he was running in 4th at that point, but Lewis was in 3rd and Lewis went on to win. So like podium was definitely on for George.
Mm.
And
Well,
it was
he qualified on pole, didn't he?
qualified on pole as well, yeah.
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 But honestly, in a race like that, like we've already spoken about the wet weather stuff, in a race like that, I don't think qualifying, if you're in the top 8,
Yeah.
anyone in that top 8 could have won. Even halfway through the race, anyone in the top 5 was still on for a win.
Yeah. Okay.
Like the conditions were just so up and down that it was so unpredictable.
Okay.
Norris led the race for the most of it and then lost.
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah.
So race of 2 halves for them. It did lead me to think, and a lot of people online to think, that Lewis might start regretting his contract with Ferrari.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
got hurt.
Yeah. I mean, I assume he knows something we don't, but
Either that or it's one of the biggest fuck ups in his career. It's one of the only fuck ups in his career.
Yeah, okay. It does seem strange. Anyways, I was walking down the street the other day and saw a Ferrari with L. Hamilton written on the side.
No. Did you get a photo?
No, it was too quick.
Skin.
Yeah.
Oh, of course it was too quick. It's
Yeah.
Ferrari. You're just driving there in your Honda, just like, I'm actually a Honda Power Red Bull, so kind of.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But I thought it was strange because obviously I assume Hamilton wasn't in Australia last week. So if you
No.
were some other bloke that owns a Ferrari, why would you write Lewis Hamilton on the side of your Ferrari?
Because why not? It's probably going to make it worth more.
You reckon?
Yeah,
Okay.
100%.
Righto.
100%. Anyway, next up on my list was Red Bull. Did you have any thoughts on Red Bull before I jump into mine?
No, you go. I mean,
Okay.
like Checo sucked. Max was, well, I mean, by his standards, kind of sucked, but
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah, that was pretty much my
Sucked
summary as
less,
well. Yeah. I wrote down that it was also a tale of two halves, but like it was kind of Max was not great and Checo was really, really not great.
Mm.
So they were the two halves. Like Max came back good in the second half of the race and like, yeah, was 1.4 seconds behind Lewis, as Ryan said, but still like the only thing that got them to second place was the strategy and Max's driving abilities in the rain. The car is not looking good. The upgrades are not looking as good as the likes of Mercedes and McLaren.
Yeah, which is exciting.
It's very exciting. Yeah. Also, Lewis winning now means that he is the sixth different driver in the first 12 races. So we've had 6 different winners over the first 12 races.
Yeah.
Which is more than I think we've had in like 6 years or 7 years. And everyone at the beginning of this season said it was going to be boring.
Yeah, literally.
I think I said,
Yeah, you
probably
said.
not you, but I said it was going to be boring.
Well, I said it was looking boring.
Yeah.
This was the first season I was starting to watch. I was just seeing one team win every
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
It sucked.
And now it looks
And
fucking
now-
sick.
Yeah, and now it's completely different. And I don't know. I remember voicing those concerns. Like, Dave, F1's pretty boring, man. The same blokes winning every race.
Yep.
And everyone kept telling me, no, you just got to ignore the top. You just got to ignore
look at the
P1.
winner.
No, it doesn't matter. Cast your eyes further down the ranks to see the real racing happen.
Yeah.
And now it's like just completely backflips. I have no idea what happened further down the race because I don't care because there's actually a race for who's going to win.
We will get onto that because yes, exactly.
And it's
I
sick.
fully agree.
I like it. It's like an actual sport now.
Yeah. Yeah, we've actually got a sport.
Yeah.
Well done. You know what? Well done to all the engineers for making faster cars so we have a sport to watch
Nice.
and talk about. The Checo thing, though, struggles for him is that since that race, he's now 137 points, I think it is, behind Max Verstappen.
Mm.
There have been a lot of rumors about his contract saying that if he is 100 points behind Max by the Belgium Grand Prix, which is in 2 races' time, then he can lose his race seat and Red Bull can replace him freely.
Okay.
Liam Lawson.
Is there anything solid about those rumors? How do people make up rumors that specific?
Yeah, mate, this is just F1.
Okay.
But like all these rumors don't even come from fans. These come from people that like the journalists at the track.
Okay.
Like, all these rumors spread around the paddock and then it just gets leaked out. And it's like, we call this silly season. We're truly fucking entering it now because we're talking about this kind of clause in a contract.
Yeah, right.
But the evidence to back it up is that Liam Lawson is doing a private test in an old Red Bull, I think this week or next week. The last time they did this was Daniel Ricciardo. He did a private test and then he replaced, I forgot the guy's name, the German guy.
That narrows it down. Been a few million of those.
Nick de Vries.
Nice.
Yeah. So like, yeah, mid-season, Nick de Vries had a very similar thing. It was like a performance-based thing in his contract. Daniel Rick went in, dominated, like did a session at Silverstone, I think it was. Absolutely dominated it, private test. And then they, like 2 races later, he was in the car.
Mhm.
And then he broke his wrist and Liam Lawson then had to go in the car.
Okay.
It was weird. So Liam Lawson doing that, I reckon it's going to be either Liam will take over from Checo and take the Red Bull seat for the rest of the season. Don't know what that means for Checo's contract next year that he just signed. Or it means Liam will take Yuki's seat in the RB and Yuki will get promoted to Checo's seat in the Red Bull.
Okay.
Which I think is my favourite. I'd rather that happen. I think Yuki deserves it.
Yeah. No, yeah. All right. I'm not disagreeing with you.
No, good. McLaren. Skin. I want to hear your thoughts first for this one.
Well, I thought it was quite bitterly disappointing as a new McLaren fan. They were sitting 1 and 2.
Yeah.
They were sitting 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Like,
And looking strong for 1 and 2.
And it was like they didn't start 1 and 2 either. They've done such a good job to get to 1 and 2.
Yeah. Oscar was looking racy. Like Oscar, like overtaking George and Lewis the way he did was very ballsy.
Yeah, it was all happening.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there thinking, this is going to be good.
Yeah.
And then they just fucking bottled it. That's bizarre.
Yeah.
I don't, yeah.
It's not the best.
Like that's okay. So they've let Piastri go around again.
They've pitted Lando.
Pitted Lando, made Piastri go around again
Yep.
on slick tyres in the rain, basically.
Yeah.
And obviously, he's just found that lap a fucking
Well,
shambles.
he lost over 20 seconds on that one lap. So the pit stop window, I think because of it being raining, it was like 21 seconds. He lost an entire pit stop on one lap.
Yeah, on one lap. So by the time he got round again to pit, Lando was back up with
He was
him.
overtaking him
It was,
again.
it's
Yeah.
bizarre.
It was crazy.
Anyways, so that sucked.
And this is what
And then you're thinking, okay, well, that's fine. Lando can at least win the race.
yeah.
And then they fucking bought. Then they, whatever the hell happens, they put him on the wrong tires.
Do you know what? This is how I used to be with Williams about 10 years ago. I'd just go, what are they doing? And now I'm just like, oh, it's just.
It was just like you heard Piastri over the mic say, okay, the mediums are the best tyre to be on toward the end of the race.
Yep.
He's already said that. Everyone knows.
Yep.
And then Lando pits and they put on soft tyres.
soft.
Like,
But also, the engineers were saying, hey, Oscar, like, we've got these tires. Like, what do you reckon? It's like, fucking make a decision for him.
I did find that strange
If you
too.
know what tires he's got that are new, just tell him, hey, this is going to be the fastest tire we think. We're going to put you on it.
Yeah.
He's got enough to do on track. It was not difficult. It was not easy out there. And he's also then got to think about what tires to put on. Same for Lando as well. Like, it was, I think McLaren fucked both of them in the arse.
Right. Okay.
Royally.
Is that, I did find that strange. Is that the normal relationship there? Because I can kind of get, like, you would think the driver would have the best feel for how wet the track is and if he wants to be on wets or slicks.
Yeah.
But then, like, surely determining which slicks to be on is like, just someone look at the data and tell me what's faster. Like, I don't.
Exactly. Literally nail on the head. It's Lando should have made, or Lando, Oscar, whoever should have made the call to go, it's far too dry, let's go slicks. But they should have made the call based on the first stint, what other people were doing around them, and all of the data they've gathered over the weekend about what will be faster at that time. And it was so obvious. I'm like sat at home like, Lewis has gone soft, Max has gone hard. Like, obviously the medium is a perfect in between. You're going to have pace and you're going to have the durability. And Lando had a fresh set of mediums as well. They put him on a scrub set of softs. It was piggish. And also Oscar caught Lando by like 7 seconds or something in that last stint.
Yeah.
If Lando, and he caught Lewis by like 5 or 6 seconds. If Lando had put mediums on, he was only 3 seconds behind Lewis. So by that logic, he would have caught and passed Lewis with 10 laps to go. I don't fucking get it. I really don't get it.
No, neither do I.
Yeah. Ferrari. Oh, Ferrari.
What disc?
I think I mentioned this last week or the week before about around this time of the season, they always just, tend to just fuck up and just like shoot themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
Charles was battling for 15th position.
Yeah, what happened there? That was kind of crazy.
Mate,
Carlos was fine.
Carlos was, but Carlos was also on the radio dictating his strategy. He was like, I want to do this. I want to do this. Whereas Charles was kind of being told what to do by the team.
Right.
Like they pitted him early again for Inters. Clearly the wrong decision because that shower came and went within like 3 laps.
Yeah.
So like and they did the same with Checo with Red Bull as well. I don't know if that was Checo's decision or Red Bull's, but just the wrong decision. And it shows again that Ferrari's strategic team are just fucking nowhere, like genuinely nowhere. Which makes me laugh because Hamilton's going there next year, and I really hope they do this with him because, oh my God, he will get annoyed so quickly. Look, did you see Leclerc's interview after the race?
I haven't. No.
He's a fucking beaten man. He's genuinely just like, just the look on his face. He's just like, I actually can't comprehend this shit anymore. He's just like, I'm so done. It's not even like the robotic, like, oh yeah, we had a bad race, but we'll bounce back, would it? He's just like, I actually just don't get it. He's like, I don't get how we did that race today. I don't get how we're in 15th again. He's just like, he's beaten.
Yep. Well, I don't have an explanation. Where did he qualify?
12th.
Okay.
11th,
So they'd already sucked a bit.
Yeah, they already sucked
in qualifying.
Yeah.
And then he was making some ground early, didn't he? He overtook a few people early in the race, didn't he? And
he was P8 real quick.
So it was looking okay.
Yeah.
And then they just went to the inter tires when it was too dry.
Yeah, I think basically like when Lewis and George both went off the track, I think that was Ferrari going, oh, that's too wet there. Let's chuck him in the pits to just kind of split the strategy and see if it would work. But it was just like everyone else every other team on the track was like, the radar's showing this is going to pass very soon. So like, why would we
everyone
do
wanted
it?
to get through that first. So
Yeah, like everyone was, even before that rain had come, I think the McLaren guys were on the radio saying like, hey, this is going to pass real quick. So just like deal with it kind of thing.
okay.
I don't understand.
No, neither. It was very strange watching a Ferrari get lapped.
Yeah.
Like he was so far behind.
Yeah. By his teammate as well.
Yeah.
And the same for Checo and Max. It was
That was weird.
that hurts.
I mean, I'm used to seeing Saubers get lapped.
Yeah. On to some of the back, let's use air quotes, back of the field teams. Haas. Second P6 in a row for Nico Hülkenberg.
Yeah, I mean,
Where the fuck has this performance come from?
I don't know, but yeah, I mean, that's hardly back of the field. That's the top 6.
That's the top 6. Yeah. Better than Ferrari. Genuinely. I don't understand. They brought 9 major upgrades to the car this weekend, and clearly all 9 of them fucking worked. K-Mag got real unlucky. I think he had a couple of offs. He had a few difficult battles. Nico definitely had an easier race, made easier by his amazing qualifying, but yeah, dominated.
Yeah, they're doing well.
Go Haas. Another team that are back of the field, I guess, this season, Aston Martin. This is like you said earlier, like, beginning of the season, we were looking down the field and they're end of the top 10 or mid. They finished 7th and 8th in the race. But I feel like they were barely on screen. Like they barely got a look in. They must have had a boring race, but 7th and 8th is good points.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
So,
well, that's what it felt like. It genuinely just felt like there was a 6-car race for P1. So, I mean, unless you follow the lower teams, there's not much reason to cast your eyes further down.
But it was, when I looked at the result, I didn't realize Aston got a double points finish. I was very shocked by that. So go Aston. Williams. I will fade this one down a bit earlier.
Thank you,
We
Dave.
fucking dominated this weekend. And obviously by dominated, I mean Alex got 2 points.
And Logan finished?
Logan finished
Nice.
12th, I think. So very good for Logan.
That is domination.
Oh, man. I mean, listen, he's going to be in a Mercedes seat next year. Logan is.
Really?
No.
Okay.
Not all. But it's very impressive that we got 9th place after that first lap incident where Alex hit Fernando and then hit his own teammate.
Yep.
And clearly had serious damage to that front wing. Potential puncture, he was reporting on the radio, but a fairly big impact and then still come back through the field and make 9th. I mean, we're just moving on up,
Yeah,
I've made a prediction, 2026, we're gonna win at least one race, and let's move that forward to 2025, boys.
Okay, look at him go. I'll tell you, one other thing Williams dominated was their bloody livery.
Livery, yeah.
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah.
That looked sick.
That was sick.
That was
They
nice.
also, did you see that they had the names of all the people that worked for the team made up the Union Jack?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, sorry, I thought, because a lot of people just saw the Union Jack. But yeah, domination.
Yeah,
A friend of mine who runs the Williams esports team, he's the team manager for that, Javi. He put a photo on his Instagram of his name. His name was on the car, and I was like, even the esports boys got a look in.
No way.
That was amazing.
Huge news.
Yeah. So, teams like Williams, they just care for their staff. It's just like we got the chocolates. We just care for our staff.
Yeah, and that's how you win championships.
Oh, I thought he was going to say that's how you win marathons, because that's what we did at the weekend.
We did not win the marathon. We were like 4,000th.
Yeah, it's basically a win. Top 4,000. So we're talking about winners and losers. Who was your winner and who was your loser from this weekend from Silverstone? What do you reckon?
Okay. Is this like a bit of a driver of the day situation where it's not really just the literal winner and loser?
Yeah, I know Lewis won and technically Gasly lost because he had to retire the car before the race had even started. But who was your winner and loser? Who's looking good after Silverstone? Who's not? Who needs to work on some shit?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had to be a bit boring, but I kind of think Lewis is the winner. It looked pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know. He just did very well. And Mercedes seemed to do very well, with the exception of something going slightly wrong, which was disappointing for them, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it just seemed like he didn't do anything wrong. He
did a couple of things wrong, but he fucking made up for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Genuinely
Made
dominated.
good decisions and drove quite a nice race and won it. So good on him. That was cool. And then, I'm probably a bit biased, but my loser is McLaren. Literally, they just lost. They were sitting 1 and 2 and they should have won and they didn't. And it was all a big bloody disappointment.
Yeah, 100%.
That's my summary.
Go skiing. I agree with you. My winner was Lewis. I reckon like the amount of records that he broke as well with that race win was like, there's so many people, I think there's like a few people that have made 300 Grand Prix and have never won after their 300th. So first person to do that. Oldest race winner in this century, I think, something like that. I can't remember. There's a fair few records that he'd broken. Like another one Ryan mentioned was he now has the most wins at one track, 9 wins at Silverstone, which is very impressive from Lewis. Could be his last win at Mercedes as well. So like I'd love Mercedes to win more races this year. It'd be great for the championship, but we never know. Like he hasn't won in 2.5 years now. So that could genuinely be his last Mercedes win.
Yeah.
So obviously it meant a lot to him. My loser was Ferrari. I just think they went into the weekend with upgrades. And by the time we got through to qualifying, they had taken the upgrades off the car because they didn't work. So they had to go back to their old car and the old car didn't work that well. So like whatever they've been designing over the last 2 or 3 months isn't working and they've just had to bin it all basically. So that's 2 or 3 months worth of work gone. They may be able to tweak it. I don't know, but it's not looking good for the future. And I'm going to fully predict, like Ryan's saying, McLaren are right behind them in the championship. They'll be lucky if they finish in the top 3 in the championship. I think they could finish 4th behind Mercedes and McLaren.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So not good for
Huge
them.
news. Yeah. All right. No, that is a loss. Well done, Dave.
Good. Thank you. We are going to have a quick meme of the week. I know it's been a fairly long ep, but I've got a meme of the week. It's actually a leak. So something came out after this weekend and it is fairly big news. Formula God posted this on Twitter. Lewis Hamilton's search history has been leaked. And it is how to unsign a contract and how to break a Ferrari contract. Obviously, I'm joking. This wasn't an actual leak.
You really got me there.
But that is good
I was
gear.
getting excited. I thought that's nice. Well done. That's a good sneak off.
Well, that wraps up another lap at the Formula Fools podcast. We hope you've enjoyed the ride as much as we did. Now it's your turn to join the Fools family by connecting with us on socials, which is at Formula Fools on Facebook and at Formula_Fools on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. I'm not going to say Twitter. We don't use it. We are on Twitter though. If you do want to follow us.
All right.
So you see how I said I wasn't going to say it and then I ended up saying it?
Yep. Well done. Nice.
Go skiing.
Nice, Dave. Great organisation. You can also leave us a rating and review wherever you listen. That'd be greatly appreciated. Preferably 5 stars if you're offering. That'd be wonderful. And if you say anything funny in a review, we'll read it out one day eventually.
Absolutely.
We're slowly getting through 'em.
Yeah. Also, if you want to send us any audio messages on Instagram or Facebook, feel free. We'd love to do another Listen to the Fools segment. Go disc. So yeah, send them through. Thank you for joining us at Formula Fools, where every turn is a chance for a good laugh. See you next time.